Coming up on Network Africa, Zimbabwe's sacked Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa has been expelled from the ruling ZANU-PF party. The United Nations moves to increase its presence in South Sudan's remote Akobo town. And a doctor from a country crushed by war, Yusufu Bangura, returns to Sierra Leone to give back to his country. Welcome to the show. I'm Joke Rogers. We start off in Zimbabwe. Days after being sacked as vice president, Zimbabwe's ruling party, ZANU-PF, has expelled Emmerson Mnangagwa from the party. Party spokesman Simon Kayamoyo says Mr. Mnangagwa lacked supreme discipline. The move comes after the former vice president announced that he had fled the country amid death threats. In his released statement, he criticized 93-year-old Robert Mugabe and his wife, accusing the couple of hijacking the party and using it as personal property. Mr. Mnangagwa, out of the succession race to replace President Robert Mugabe, First Lady Grace Mugabe is now the favorite to succeed her husband. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe's main airport has been officially renamed after President Robert Mugabe. In the meantime, a group of Zimbabwean war veterans have appealed to the international community to intervene in their country's political crisis before it gets bloody. This comes after 2 cabinet reshuffles within a month and the sacking of the country's vice president. A day before the sack, the Zimbabwean First Lady Grace Mugabe, who is being put forward for the position of vice president by the ZANU-PF Youth League, made very scathing statements against Mr. Mnangagwa, who has now fled the country. Speaking at a press conference in Johannesburg, the leader of the war veterans group, Chris Mutsvangwa, accuses President Mugabe of allegedly trying to hijack the party to give powers to his wife. He also listed some of the issues they are worried about for the 2019 elections.
We want the international community to, particularly the Western countries, the company and the big powers, and also other well-meaning countries, to make it starkly clear to the G4 cabal and to Grace that if there is any spilling of blood caused by the wayward actions of a power-hungry clique, there will be consequence. And we are also appealing to our civil service to be vigilant and to resist the element of kleptocratic plunder, which is now afflicting. This is the solidarity, the brotherhood. We as war veterans, Zanda and Zipra, are reaching out to these countries to say, guys, come and rescue, help us arrest the situation which is developing in Zimbabwe. We respect our constitution, and it was consulted by the whole population and passed in 2014. That is the supreme document which matters to Zimbabwe. Anything which happens at ZANU-PF and any other organization is a private institution. But they are conflating the state with their party, whatever they want. And this is why we are calling for our neighbors in the sub-region. We have put standards in SADC for electoral practices to be transparent, accountable to the population, to be engaged, if possibly invoke the Zimbabwean organ of defense and security to address the situation in Zimbabwe so that the pace at which this mad cabal is working on can be arrested and the country revert to the normal course of development. And that's what we are appealing to, and particularly South Africa as a regional power.
Let's go more on the situation in Zimbabwe, and joining us to discuss this is a public affairs analyst, Dr. Adetokunbo Pearce. Thank you for joining us on the program. What do you make of what's going on in Zimbabwe at the moment?
I think that what is going on is another example of impunity in the politics of Africa, that people want to perpetuate themselves. They want to be presidents for life. Mugabe has been there since the what is going on now. Not only is he president for life, he would have an extended lifetime with his wife now as the next vice president, which will translate into presidency very soon. So the family has become the owners of Zimbabwe. That's what it's appearing to be.
The sacked vice president has fled the country. Do you think he should have left, or should he have stayed to fight for what he thinks is right for Zimbabwe?
Well, if the man feels that his life is threatened, it reminds me of what happened in Kenya recently with the lady, the electoral commission lady who fled to be unfair. But as anybody who opposes the process is taking a risk with their life. So if the vice president is so scared that his life is in danger, I am sure it is not only him but his family and many friends will have to flee, because since Mugabe has absolute power, and if he has absolute power, he can do mischief in an absolute way. So the best thing is to run away. Running away is a good sign that he can fight from the outside, and he has made the impunity, the autocratic system that Mugabe has imposed on the country. He has internationalized the struggle and the opposition to such impunity. So, in a way, you can see that that African leaders are beginning to fight back. Many years ago, what happened in Kenya and what's happening in Zimbabwe now would have been met in silence. But now, moving away from the country, it's a challenge. It's a dramatic challenge to the imposition and to the unfair treatment, the lack of democracy that we are seeing in Zimbabwe.